It began with a message. My dad rarely called unless it was to discuss investments or argue with the cable company. So when his text popped up on a calm Tuesday night, I knew it wouldn't be a request. It would be an order. "You're expected at Ethan's wedding. No exceptions." That was all. No how's college. No are you available that weekend. Not even a please. Just a directive issued with absolute authority. I stared at the screen, finger poised over the keys, then locked my phone without replying. I was swamped with a freelance project deadline for a client who paid better than most entry-level jobs, and I couldn't afford the mental toll of dealing with this. But 10 minutes later, another buzz. "Skip it, and don't expect us to keep paying your tuition." There it was, the true ultimatum. To my father, I wasn't a person. I was a project, a calculated risk that, if shaped properly, might turn out marginally acceptable, or profitable, or more likely, someone he could mention in passing, as long as I didn't overshadow Ethan. Ethan was the star. Varsity quarterback, MBA, polished charm. The guy who shared hustle-hard quotes and thought compassion was a corporate buzzword. My parents didn't just love him, they revered him. Not with warm, familial affection, but with dynastic pride. I, meanwhile, was the challenging one. Reserved, intellectual, too sharp-tongued, too emotional, too me. They covered part of my tuition not out of kindness, but obligation. I'd earned a partial scholarship, juggled 2 campus gigs, and still scraped by. They stepped in for the rest, with strings attached. Mandatory holiday visits, public family events, and now a non-negotiable summons to a wedding I had no interest in. I didn't resent Ethan, I just didn't idolize him. He treated me with mild indifference, sometimes veering into subtle jabs when it amused him. In high school, he once presented me at a party as my brother who does something with books, I guess. It wasn't clever, but it got laughs. That was Ethan's talent. Making others the punchline while convincing everyone they were in on the joke. My father was harsher, turning pride into a tool for control. An A earned a "why not an A+." A scholarship prompted, "about time you started contributing." So when he said show up or lose your funding, he meant play your role or we'll tighten the reins. I didn't reply that night or the next, but the pressure coiled tighter with each hour. Mom called Thursday. "Honey, don't make this a thing. You know how much this means to your father, and Ethan's excited to see you." That was nonsense. Ethan cared about the free drinks and the honeymoon suite, not me. I was a prop in his wedding montage, the sibling nobody noticed in the credits. Still, I mumbled, "I'll consider it." But I wasn't debating attendance. I was planning how I'd show up, and what I'd carry with me. Not a present, because what my family never realized, what they never thought to ask, was that while they were busy crowning Ethan the family triumph, I'd been quietly forging my own path. Friday morning, I got the calendar invite. Subject, rehearsal dinner, Ethan and Sophia. Venue, a lavish winery an hour away. Dress code, smart casual sophistication. Note from Mom. "So thrilled you're coming, sweetie." Dad says no drama this time, heart emoji. That last part stung. This time? She meant last Christmas when Ethan quipped I was the family write-off who'd never amount to much, and I didn't chuckle. Apparently choosing quiet dignity over fake gratitude was causing a scene. I RSVP'd. By Saturday, my phone rang. Dad. No hello, no pleasantries. Just, "You saw the invite?" I confirmed I had. "Then you'll be there?" I stayed silent. "Don't act clueless," he barked. "This isn't optional. It's your brother's moment and you won't spoil it with your attitude. Show up, smile, pose for the photos." I said nothing. He sighed, irritated, then delivered the final blow, flat as a news report. "One misstep and your tuition's gone. Clear?" There it was, the threat they'd hinted at for years, now explicit and cold. Not care, not encouragement, just leverage. I didn't argue, didn't raise my voice. I just said, "Got it," and hung up. I opened my laptop and checked my student portal. Next semester's tuition was already marked paid in full. Because 2 weeks earlier, without a word to anyone, I'd covered it myself, entirely, with money I'd earned freelancing after hours while managing a full course load. My parents hadn't noticed. They never asked how I was coping. They assumed I was still their puppet, reliant on their checks, terrified of their disapproval. But what they didn't know was that while they were measuring me against Ethan, I'd built something they'd never anticipate. I started freelance coding in my second year. Small gigs at first, bug fixes, basic website updates for outdated blogs, modest work. But I treated each task like a masterpiece. Clients referred me. One job led to another, then another. By my third year, I had steady contracts with 2 tech startups and a marketing firm needing custom tools. I built databases, reporting systems, even a browser plugin that quietly generated passive income. One client paid $8,000 to connect their checkout system to a billing platform. When the payment hit my account, I stared at it, stunned, for 10 minutes. I wasn't wealthy, but I wasn't beholden anymore. That weekend, while my family fussed over custom drinks and table arrangements, I prepared. I made a spreadsheet. Tab 1, guest list, matched with LinkedIn profiles. Tab 2, key points, in case anyone asked about my work. Tab 3, a single, airtight sentence I'd deliver when the moment was right. I didn't need their cash. I didn't need their approval, and I definitely didn't need to stay silent any longer. Nobody in my family ever asked, "What do you actually do?" Not genuinely, not with curiosity, not even as a formality. They just assumed I was struggling, that I was figuring it out, that I was waiting for someone to hand me a life. Ethan was the entrepreneur, the driven one, the one with the confident grip and flawless haircut. He was the future mogul, the rising star. And me? I was the introvert, the one who tinkers with computers or whatever. While Ethan posted gym selfies and rented sports cars for his social media, I was in a late-night diner, surviving on stale bagels and coding until dawn. It started with a group project in class. My teammates flaked, so I built the whole thing: front-end, back-end, user authentication, payment integration. The professor gave me an A+ and asked, "Have you considered freelance work?" I hadn't. But she connected me with a friend who owned a small cafe with a broken website. I fixed it for $600 in 10 days. It wasn't flashy, but it functioned. When the payment landed, I knew I was done with campus jobs. From there, it snowballed. I revamped a photographer's portfolio, then a caterer's booking system, then a gym's membership tracker. I made errors, wrote clunky code, underpriced my work, overcommitted. But each mistake honed my skills. I built my own website with a simple tagline: reliable solutions, discreetly executed. No hype, no bravado, just results. By my third year, I had 3 ongoing clients and 2 regular project contracts. I billed by project, not hours. I delivered with precision. I even learned to say no when someone asked for a quick favor. Once a fintech startup tried to dodge payment on a job. I activated a fail-safe in the code I'd written, pausing their system until they settled the invoice. They paid by noon the next day, with a penalty fee. My proudest moment? A nonprofit director emailed me after I built their donation platform, saying my work had doubled their fundraising. She sent a $1,200 bonus. That same week, my mom texted, asking if I'd thought about getting a real job. I didn't respond. By my final year, I was earning $7,000 a month after taxes. I had 2 bank accounts, a retirement fund, an emergency stash, and I'd paid my tuition in full while my dad still thought I needed his handouts. They never noticed, never asked why I stopped asking for gas money, or how I upgraded my laptop, or why my rent was always paid early. In their minds, I was an afterthought. The bookworm, the perpetual student, the quiet one. But I'd been speaking loudly, they just weren't listening. And that was okay, because I wasn't building my life for their praise. And when they finally saw me, it wouldn't be because I shouted. It would be because I spoke the truth clearly and let the moment carry the weight. My flight landed at 10:32 a.m. Friday. Dad picked me up in his leased BMW, a motivational podcast blaring at low volume. He didn't ask about the flight, didn't ask about me. Just launched into the schedule like I was his assistant. You're in the spare room, second row at the ceremony. No speeches, just smile for the cameras. I don't want any issues. I looked out the window. Issues? He chuckled dryly. You know how you get. Just act normal for once. Normal, right. The rehearsal dinner was that evening at a golf club my parents didn't belong to, but Sophia's family did, which was close enough for them to play aristocrats. Mom greeted me with a strained smile and a peck on the cheek. Oh, darling, you made it. Don't forget to fix your collar for the pictures. Ethan strolled over, bourbon in hand, tie undone like he was auditioning for a GQ shoot. Well, look who showed up, he said, slapping my shoulder. Still messing with that tech stuff? Still. I nodded. He smirked. Ever thought about a real career? I could get you an entry-level intern at my company if you trim that hair. He laughed, mostly to himself. I smiled. Good to know. He blinked, thrown by the mild response, then sauntered off like he'd just offered me a golden ticket. The night blurred into a haze of toasts, clinking glasses, and performative joy. Someone gifted Ethan a monogrammed whiskey set. Someone else recounted his game-winning high school football play. The crowd cheered. I sipped water and nodded. At one point, Sophia's uncle leaned over. So, what's your deal? I shrugged. I fix complex problems with clean code. He chuckled, unsure if I was a quip. Well, Ethan says his team could use help with some tricky analytics. You up for it? I smiled. Maybe. Dinner dragged on with overpriced steak and stilted chit-chat. Halfway through dessert, Mom whispered, "You've really settled down, haven't you? I told your dad you're finally learning your role." My role. I excused myself and stepped outside. The air was sharp and clear, the kind of quiet that feels alive. I checked my phone. A payment had cleared. 3 new invoices paid in full. One client added a $300 bonus for early delivery. Another wanted to increase their contract. My fingers hovered over my notes app. I added one line. Let them speak, let them laugh. They don't know this is the last time they'll be underestimated. I walked back in. Ethan was still commanding the room. Dad was still acting like he owned it. But I wasn't angry anymore, because tomorrow they'd pass me a microphone, and I wouldn't shout. I'd just speak. And when I spoke, they'd listen for the first time. The wedding morning was a blur of hairspray, cufflinks, and forced cheer. The house hummed with chaos. Sophia's family operated like they were staging a royal event. Ethan shouted into his phone, finalizing something with the band. Mom insisted I swap my tie, saying it looked too bohemian. By noon, we were at the venue. White chairs in perfect rows, an arbor draped in roses and tulle, a cellist warming up in the distance. I was directed to my seat, second row, far left. Visible but unobtrusive, just how they liked me. I kept my eyes down, nodded at guests, and said thank you when someone complimented my suit. Then came the cocktail hour. Small talk was the currency. I was by the champagne bar when a man I didn't know approached. You're Ethan's brother, right? Guilty. He smiled. I'm Mark, Sophia's cousin. Didn't chat last night. Not much to say, I replied, keeping it light. Depends on what you do, he countered. I paused, then gave him the streamlined version. Freelance developer, back-end systems, process automation, integrations. His brows rose. No kidding? That's impressive. We need someone to overhaul our nonprofit's data system. Got a card? I handed him one over, simple, just my name, email, website. He read it. Reliable solutions, discreetly executed. Sharp, I like it, thanks. He leaned in. Don't tell Ethan, but you're already outshining half his guest list. He walked off. What I didn't know was that someone else had overheard. Sophia's aunt. She approached minutes later. You do software? Sometimes. Government contracts? On occasion? Her grinned. I'm on payroll for the county. We've been desperate for a new systems guy for months. Can we talk? We did, for 10 minutes. 2 more people drifted over. One ran a catering business. The other worked at a community college needing a student portal. And just like that, the murmur began. Not gossip, not whispers, interest, the good kind. By the reception, 4 people had asked for my portfolio link. One asked if I mentored. Another said their company could use someone with your energy. Ethan didn't notice. He was too busy posing by the vintage Bentley. Dad didn't notice either. Too busy reciting Ethan's credentials to the groom's father like a sermon. But others did. And the way they saw me shifted. Not as the quiet sibling, with respect. The event planner swept by. You're the coder? Mark's cousin won't shut up about you. Said you made databases sound fascinating. I didn't correct her. I just smiled. Because the best part wasn't the recognition, it was that I didn't seek it. It found me. And as I sat at the reception, I watched Ethan give another speech. He thanked his parents, his in-laws, his unwavering support network. He didn't mention me. Didn't matter. Because by then, 6 people in the room knew the truth. And truth has weight. You don't need to yell it, you just let it settle. The reception flowed like a well-oiled script. Ethan shone. Sophia sparkled. Parents preened. Every detail was curated to uphold the family's narrative, until the microphone passed. It wasn't intentional. The best man had just finished his speech, mostly frat house anecdotes, and the MC, a bit drunk, grinned. Anyone else want to toast the couple? Before I could slip away, my dad's voice boomed. Evan, say something. All eyes turned. He smirked like he was tossing me a lifeline or a test. I stood, took the mic, not out of bitterness, not for drama, because I was ready. I cleared my throat. Hi, I'm Evan, Ethan's younger brother. Polite nods. A few guests whispered, they look alike. I went on. I don't have a sports story or a college prank to share, but I have perspective. Light laughter, hesitant. I've been the silent one in this family for years. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I learned some people prefer their own narrative. A few heads tilted. But recently, I changed. I started building things that didn't need approval. I stopped waiting for permission to value myself. I paused. Ethan's in finance. My parents love sharing that, and that's fine. Ethan's smile was stiff. What they don't know is that for 2 years, I've run my own software consultancy. I create custom systems for businesses, schools, and municipalities. I've completed over 70 projects, all on my own. The room stirred. And last month, I paid my tuition in full, cash. No loans, no parental help. Nobody noticed because nobody asked. Silence. My father shifted in his seat. I'm not saying this to upset anyone. I'm saying it because I spent years thinking I wasn't enough. That I was the failure, the burden. I smiled. I'm not. I earn more than Ethan. It wasn't loud, but it landed like thunder. Ethan's face hardened. Sophia tensed. A couple nearby leaned forward. Someone in the back muttered, "Whoa." I don't need praise. I don't need cheers. I just needed the people who raised me to know I was thriving, even when they weren't looking. I handed the mic back and sat. No theatrics, just truth, spoken plainly. Ethan approached, flushed. What was that? Perspective, I said. You think this is a joke? He hissed. You're wrecking our day. I think you're just shocked I'm not your sidekick anymore, I replied. He stepped closer. Dad pulled him back. Mom whispered something sharp. And me? I sipped my drink. Because for once, I owed them nothing. No apologies, no performance, no pretense. The silence after was heavy, charged, like the air before a storm. A few guests clapped, unsure if it was allowed. Others stared, spoons paused mid-bite. Ethan stood, glaring like I'd stolen his spotlight. You earn more than me? He muttered, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. I met his gaze. Yes, that's garbage, he snapped. Sophia tugged his sleeve, murmuring, Let's not make this a circus. We're here to celebrate. But the damage was done. The murmurs spread.
He paid his tuition himself? I thought Ethan was the big shot. He seemed so steady.
Sophia's aunt passed by, heading to the bar. I'd love your contact info before you leave. That was bold. I nodded, but I didn't grin. This wasn't victory, it was clarity. Truth, when spoken in a house of facades, doesn't spark joy. It shifts the foundation. I stood, straightened my jacket, and addressed my table. Thanks for the meal, but I've taken enough space in a story that was mine to rewrite. Ethan opened his mouth, but Sophia intervened. Let it go, she whispered. He didn't ruin anything. He just asked people to see him. My mother looked faint. Dad gave me that old familiar glare, disappointment in disguise. But it didn't hurt. It didn't matter. I walked past the head table, past the untouched cake, past a photographer unsure whether to keep clicking. Outside, the air was sharp, real. I checked my phone. 2 new emails. One from a guest requesting a consultation for a library system, another from a recruiter impressed by my systems thinking approach. I started replying. Behind me, the DJ tried to revive the mood with an upbeat track. It didn't matter. I'd said my piece. And now? I was done acting, done justifying, done being their prop. I didn't return to the house. I booked a hotel nearby, the kind with soft lighting and strong Wi-Fi. I ordered room service, steak, medium rare, and worked through client emails like it was any other night. My phone buzzed with messages, some from strangers. That was the cleanest takedown ever. You run your own company? Respect. If you're ever speaking at a conference, let me know. I ignored most. The point wasn't to bask, it was to be heard. I checked out Sunday morning, caught a 6:45 a.m. flight, and by the time my family was up for mimosa brunches and posed photos, I was back in my city, back in my zone. Monday brought 2 client meetings, a new contract, and a payment that made me smile. Tuesday, a referral from a wedding guest, a municipal project with a budget that could have covered 3 years of tuition. Wednesday, nothing from my family. No calls, no texts, silence, until Thursday night. Mom posted an old photo of Ethan and me on social media, building a sandcastle at some lake house. Caption, "My boys forever," heart emoji. No apology, no acknowledgement, just sentimentality masquerading as amends. I didn't engage. Ethan, as far as I could tell, went quiet too. His profiles locked down. The guy who once posted hourly about dominating the game vanished online. I didn't gloat. I didn't care. I just felt free, like a weight I'd carried for years had dissolved. Because I didn't go to the wedding to cause chaos, I went to walk away from it. For years, I let them write my story. They handed me a script and expected me to recite it, word for word, until I earned their nod. But I don't want their nod. I want calm. And calm doesn't come from performing. It comes from letting go of the arguments, the pleading, the proving, the pretense. What they thought was weakness was me rewriting my own ending.